Subscribe for more.
My name is Paul Thompson. 8 years ago, I made a choice that has had a big effect on the path my life has followed. My daughter Abigail has always been the most important person in my life. My wife died when Abigail was 12 years old. From then on, I was both her mother and father. I put all of my efforts into helping her grow into the best version of herself, one that would make her strong and successful. I made sure she had everything she needed by making sacrifices that hurt my own happiness and health. Abigail was smart, driven, and full of energy her whole childhood. She was a shining example and source of inspiration, and I was proud of what she had done. She graduated from high school with honors and then went on to study at the University of California, Los Angeles. She was a great student up to that point in time. But in the last year of her education, her life changed in every way possible. In December 2016, the phone call came in. My phone rang as I was relaxing at home after a long day at work. The doctor took care of Abigail. "Mr. Thompson, I have some extremely bad news. Abigail fell today and was taken to the hospital. She is suffering from acute kidney failure." When I heard those words, it felt like I had been hit by a truck. I couldn't breathe in or out. I didn't know what to do. My own daughter, the one for whom I had given up everything, was dying. The doctor said she only had a little more than half a year left to live, but if she didn't get a kidney transplant, she might live a little longer. On the other hand, the waiting list for a kidney was 3 to 5 years long. I sat in that hospital room and watched my daughter lie there, hooked up to the machines that were keeping her alive. I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself because my heart was broken into a million pieces. I wasn't going to let my child die, it was out of the question. I made a quick decision and said, "Put me to the test. I'm going to donate one of my kidneys. I'm a perfect match." In March of 2017, I had surgery that made it possible for me to give Abigail one of my kidneys. The surgery took 11 hours, and the doctors told me it was a perfect match. Suddenly, my kidneys started to work poorly, but Abigail's health got much better almost right away after that. She was given another chance to live her life a second time. I was happy with the decision I had made, but at the same time, I felt like I was losing a part of myself. I lost a lot of energy, and the kidney that I still have started working too fast. I went from running a construction company with a lot of employees to managing smaller projects. I was so tired that I had to take naps all the time. On the other hand, I made sure not to show any signs of being unhappy. The gift I gave my daughter was the best thing I could think of to give her. I saved her life. Abigail didn't need much time to get better. She went back to the University of California, Los Angeles, to finish her degree requirements 6 months after she got sick. After she graduated, she got a job with a high salary at Sterling Premium Brands, a premium brand. She made $85,000 a year, her company gave her a car, and she had access to an expense account. It seemed like everything in her life was going the way she wanted it to. As for me, though, I was still recovering at the time. I was so tired that I started taking naps in the afternoons. As Abigail's work became more successful, her life began to change. She started to keep more distance from me, both physically and emotionally. I noticed it in small ways, like how she wouldn't talk about me when her friends were around. Every time she came over to see me, she would look at my small apartment with what seemed like shame. She would say things like, "Dad, you really should get a new wardrobe," or "You should get a newer car." Her words made me feel like I was a burden. What she did was just as important as what she said. She started hanging out with people who were very wealthy, well-connected, and powerful. They lived in mansions, drove fancy cars, and went to high society events. I was living in a small, one-bedroom apartment, having trouble paying my medical bills on time, and taking naps just to get through the day. All of this was going on at the same time. The call came in March 2018. Abigail was crying. She told me that Trevor's parents were going to visit her and that she lived in a small apartment with other people. "Father, I can't host them," she said. "I'm going to let them down," she said. My heart broke when I heard her say that. I didn't even think twice before using a mortgage to buy her a $2.5 million home in West LA. The stunning contemporary 4-bedroom house had granite countertops, hardwood floors, and a kitchen that looked like it came straight out of a magazine. I told Abigail that she had received an early inheritance from me and that I hoped she would see it as a gift from me. "You have been through a lot," I said. As soon as she saw the house, she broke down in tears. She hugged me tightly and said she would never forget what I had done for her. I decided to keep the house in my name. I kept telling myself that it was only a matter of time before I gave it to her, but I had a nagging feeling that something was wrong. As soon as Abigail moved in, things changed for her. Trevor's parents were impressed, and she became the girl who lived in the beautiful house. Everyone in her social circle paid the most attention to her. Her status grew, and so did the distance between the two of them. She stopped sending me invites to family events and we only had dinner together once a month. She called me less often, and when I went to visit her, I could tell she was uncomfortable and didn't want me to be there. She had nothing left to do but do everything I had done for her. It was like she had forgotten about the sacrifices I had made. I paid the mortgage on the house every month, which was $3,847. I also paid for all the property taxes, electricity, and upkeep. At that time, I was spending about $68,000 a year on her lifestyle. Abigail, on the other hand, has done nothing. But it wasn't just the money that was hard to deal with. It was the way she started to treat me. She had made up a new story about herself that didn't include the guy who had given up his health, his fortune, and his very life for her. She had written me into her new story as a background character, posting pictures of herself on social media cooking in her beautiful kitchen, hosting parties, and talking about her investments, making herself look like a self-made woman. Thanksgiving came in 2024. Abigail called to tell me she couldn't invite me over for dinner because Trevor and his family were having a high-end event. "You know how you get tired, Dad," she said. I stayed home that night and ate a frozen dinner while watching football, telling myself, it's going to be a long night. It hurt, but I told myself it was just a phase. That instant, a phone call arrived that would change everything. The date was December 10, 2024. I was going over some paperwork from my real estate agent, Tom, when Abigail called me. She informed me of the plans she had made for her Christmas celebration. "I think it would be best if you didn't come this year," she said to her father. "You know these people, and you are aware that they are going to pass judgment on every aspect of you, your appearance, your background, everything. You're blue collar," she said, and the words hit me like a slap in the face. I was a source of embarrassment. "Are you ashamed of me?" I said. At that point, I realized that she didn't want me to be in her life anymore. I asked her if she wanted to talk about it, she said. After a short pause, she said, "This isn't about that, Father. This is about strategy. I am working on advancing my career," she explained, "and to do so, I need to be around the right people. All the things I had done for her and all the things I had given up for her out of love had been for nothing. I had given her all she needed, but she wouldn't even give me a little bit of respect. The question was easy: what do I do now? There was no way I could ignore it anymore. I wasn't going to let her keep looking down on me. I had to pick one of two possibilities. I had to decide whether to let her keep eliminating me from her life or do something about it. That night, I made a choice that would change my life forever. I would take control of the situation. Abigail needed to realize that what she did had consequences. This Christmas, she will finally get what I've been trying to teach her for years. I spent a lot of time thinking about what we talked about and how she treated me. It looked like I would never be able to be her father again and that she would never remember all the things I had done for her. I was getting more and more irritated, but I wasn't going to let my feelings get the best of me. I had learned to be patient and understanding over the years, but I thought it was time for Abigail to learn a lesson she would never forget. I called Tom Bradley, my real estate agent and former army buddy, because I was too busy getting ready for everything that was going to happen in the next several days. I told him to start looking for someone who might want to buy the house. But it wasn't just about the house, it was also about teaching Abigail a lesson about how she had treated me and other people, especially her family members, and what she would have to deal with as a result. "Paul, are you sure this is the right thing to do?" Tom questioned, shocked by my choice. "Is the house for sale?" He asked and said that Abigail was your daughter. "This is where she lives," he said. I acted right away. It was never her home base, and it isn't where she lives now. She never thought of it as her home base. It belongs to me. She should have learnt that by now. Tom knew what was going on. We were both in the same military unit when we were in Afghanistan. He was able to tell the difference between the truths that were being kept secret. "Okay, Paul. I'll start calling people. We will make this move swiftly." After I hung up the phone, I went back to my chair and let out a long, drawn-out sigh. I knew it was very important to take this step, even though it was very risky. The weight of the situation was like a heavy burden on my chest, but I decided to keep fighting. This time, things are different. As time went on, I became more and more aware of a change that was happening inside me. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was standing up for myself. I had given Abigail everything, and it was time for her to realize that everything has a price to pay. The sacrifices I had made for her, the years of hard work, and the health I had given up should not be seen as small things. When December 15th came, the temperature dropped suddenly. I had already made up my mind before the evening came, and I knew that Abigail was throwing a Christmas party. I was going to go no matter what she thought of me being there. I wasn't going to miss anything that happened in my own life. I drove to my house and parked across the street from it. The house had changed a lot. It looked like it had been taken straight from a magazine, with valet parking, professional lighting, and people dressed in stylish clothes getting out of fancy cars. Abigail didn't skimp on anything, she paid for everything. But I had already spent my money. I arrived at the front door after waiting for the party to get going. I wore a navy jacket I had bought for Abigail's college graduation, khaki pants, and dress shoes. This was not quite black tie, but it was good enough for the event. The security guard at the door gave me a confused look when he looked over the guest list and then did another check. He said, "Sir, I am not seeing a Thompson in this area." After I said, "Abigail's father is me," I kept going and passed him by before he could say anything. And the owner of the house, too. The house looked completely different on the inside than it did before. There was a jazz quartet playing in the corner, and the waitresses were wearing white coats. The sound of glasses clinking and people laughing filled the air. All 60 or so people who had come looked like they had just walked out of a magazine that featured luxury goods. The red dress Abigail was wearing next to the fireplace was worth more than my rent for a month. The moment she saw me, she was shocked, and her eyes went wide. She hurried over to me to try to disguise the fear that was clearly showing on her face. "Father, what has brought you to this place?" She asked the inquiry with a shaky voice since she was so scared. I kept my cool and said, I thought I would stop by and see how the party was going. Abigail, this party is so beautiful. I knew there was tension between us. I didn't know what I wanted to happen, but I knew that this moment would change the future. Dad, this isn't the right time for this, she replied in a low voice. I'm going to meet with Trevor's parents. In an hour, we'll be going out to eat. I smiled back at her and noticed that she was trying very hard to hide how scared she was. I'd like to meet some of your buddies before I hang out with them. You have given me a lot of information about them. It looked like Abigail wouldn't be able to handle the weight of the responsibility and would give in and break. Before Abigail could say anything, Trevor's mother, a classy woman in her 60s, stepped up and said, "Oh, how wonderful." Abigail said, "She talks about her father all the time," and reached out her hand to the woman. Abigail had taken great care to make sure her nails were perfectly clean. I shook her hand and kept my eyes on Abigail. "It's nice to meet you," I said in a kind tone. I know Abigail speaks well of me. As soon as Abigail realized what was going on, her face went completely blank. She started with Mom, but Trevor's mother, Margaret, cut her off before she could finish. "Abigail must make you feel like you take a lot of pride in her," I said to her. "She has built such a wonderful life for herself." I nodded my head up and down. I'm proud of it, but I wouldn't say she built it all by herself. The room was completely quiet. It didn't take long for me to see Abigail trying to come up with an excuse or a way to change the subject. But this was no longer an option. I spoke to the gathering in a pleasant tone. Abigail was dying 8 years ago because her kidneys were failing. I gave her one of my kidneys. There was no sound in the room, and Abigail's face was as red as a tomato. I looked at her and asked, I wonder if Abigail ever brought that up? Even though she didn't answer my question, I could see by the look on her face that she was scared. I wasn't done yet. I really didn't want her to act like none of this had ever happened. I kept talking, keeping my voice steady. You know, I really think it's important for people to know how hard my daughter worked to get everything she has. Abigail tried to talk, but her voice broke in the middle of her sentence. Please don't, the youngster begs, Daddy. I wasn't paying attention, though. I also helped with the house, I said as I looked around the room. I bought it. But I can state with confidence that it is not in her name. It is within of me. I thought she needed it, even though I still own it. The guests looked at each other, and some of the people who were there looked worried while others looked confused. The first person to say something was Margaret, and her voice was soft. But Abigail told us she had a mortgage, she stated in answer. Yes, she does, I said, my voice getting a little sharper. But her name isn't on the list of owners. I have it. The mood in the room grew more and more tense. At this point, Abigail's face showed a mix of surprise and shame. I stayed calm and talked to her in a way that was strong but not loud. Do you still think that everything is yours, Abigail? Is this the house you want? This life? Here is a verbatim quote from the source. Abigail tried to talk, but she found that she couldn't say anything. I glanced across to Trevor, who had been standing still next to her. He looked more and more confused as time went on. What is happening on here, Abigail? He asked, seeming genuinely shocked by what he had just learned. I thought we were family, I said, my voice booming through the room. But I'm starting to see that you are treating me like I'm a total stranger, like I don't have anything to do with your life. Abigail looked at Margaret and then looked back at her. She seemed like she was upset at how she had reacted. She shook her head and questioned, What have you done to treat your father like that? I could tell that Abigail was getting more scared because her grip on my arm got considerably stronger. "Please, Father," she begged, her voice shaking as she pleaded, "this is not the right place or time for this. I'm sorry for this, Abigail. Nevertheless, there is something that you need to understand," I said as I looked around the room at the individuals who were watching attentively. "All of the things that you own, your house, your car, and your money, are the results of my hard work. It is my belief that you must understand once and for all that you are going to have to pay the cost for everything." I turned around and started to walk to the door. "I'll be leaving now," I said, turning my back on Abigail so I wouldn't have to see her. "You need to remember this occasion, but don't forget that the people that helped you get to this level of achievement were the ones who assisted you. And you could acquire something out of this experience, who knows?" As I stepped outside into the cold night air, I could hear the soft murmuring sounds coming from inside the home. I kept looking the other way. I didn't have to do it. I had made up my mind, and so had Abigail. She had come to the same conclusion that I had. I had hoped for a long time that one day she will see and appreciate the sacrifices I made for her. But at this point, it was clear that she had not done what she was supposed to do. I couldn't provide anything else but what I had already given. The whole way home, I was lost in thought because my mind was always racing at a steady pace. I didn't act irritated at all. This isn't quite right. I was let down. I was disappointed in Abigail, how things turned out, and even in myself. I, on the other hand, was set on doing whatever it took. I realized I had to take a stand at this point in time. I couldn't be the kind of father who just let his kid show her anger anymore. After I got back from the trip I had taken, I went back to my apartment. It was the same little, one-bedroom flat where I had lived for a few years. It looked smaller to me tonight. It seemed like the walls were closer together and the ceiling was lower. After giving away a kidney and spending years helping others, I finally fell into the couch, my body throbbing from all the exhaustion that had built up. My body was attempting to tell me to relax, but my mind was racing ahead. After getting my phone out of my pocket, I called Tom. He picked up the phone right away. He muttered in a quiet voice, barely audible, "Paul. After thinking over what you said, I have arrived to a conclusion. Is there anything you want me to explain about this?" "This is a straight quote from the source. I am completely convinced," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I have to keep going with the process of selling the house. This has been going on for way too long. It's time to change the way we do things." There was a short break in the talk before Tom said, "Okay. I'll be the one to begin the ball rolling. I just want you to know that I'm on your side and that once this starts, there's no going back." "I get what you're saying, Tom," I said. "This is the right thing to do." He said, "All right. I will keep you updated after we find any potential purchasers." I took the phone off the receiver and looked up at the ceiling as I went back to my seat. The silence in my flat was so heavy that it felt like it was going to suffocate me. The silence was so thick that I felt like I couldn't breathe, and it made me think about all the things I had given up to get to this place in my life. I did a lot of things every day over the next few days, like waiting, filling out forms, and answering the phone. I made sure my phone was close by, but I didn't answer any of Abigail's calls or texts. I didn't want to answer the phone even though she called me several times. I knew she was in a panic, and it made me feel sorry for her. Still, much of my mind knew that she had to go through this alone, without any help. After a while, my phone rang again. It was the 18th of December. In the end, it was Abigail who came. "Please, Dad," she begged, her voice weak and shaky, as if she didn't know how to start. "We need to talk." I knew that a knot had formed in my throat, but I made sure that my actions didn't show it. "Abigail, we've talked about this too much already." "I understand," she said, and her voice shook as she kept talking. "But please let me tell you what I think. I really didn't mean what I said at the party, I really didn't. I also uttered some dumb things because I felt embarrassed or self-conscious. I didn't mean to hurt you." What she said affected me more than I thought it would. I could tell from her voice that she meant what she said, but it was too late to fix it. I said, "Abigail," and my voice was cold. "You can't take back what you said or did. You can't take back what you said. For years, you've treated me like I'm a bother in your life, and I've let it go because I assumed it was simply a phase you were going through. What about this scenario, on the other hand? This is not just a phase." When she started talking again after a short break, her voice was loud enough for everybody to hear it. "I apologize, Father. I admit that I made a mistake. I don't know what this means. I wasn't aware of how my actions were affecting you. I got so absorbed in this new world that I was in that I distanced myself from you out of fear that I would lose everything." "Abigail, you haven't lost anything at all," I said, my voice steady. "You didn't lose anything because I was always there for you. You, on the other hand, kept your distance from me. You made me feel like my feelings didn't matter, and that's something I just can't ignore." "I understand," she said, her voice becoming strained as the words caught in her throat. "I am cognizant of that fact. In addition, I am convinced that I do not possess the qualities that would make me deserving of your forgiveness. I want you to know, on the other hand, that I have an understanding of this particular situation at this point in time. Everything that I have ever done is visible to me. I was exceedingly selfish, and I assumed that everything would always be provided to me. And I express my apologies. I am being completely honest. For a long time, I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. I really hoped that what she said was true. I wanted to believe that she really understood how far her actions had gone. But deep down, I knew that actions speak louder than words. Her actions over the past few years have also been very telling. After a long quiet, I finally remarked, "Abigail, you can't ignore what happened in the past. But maybe we can build something new. But it won't be easy. That won't happen tomorrow, though." When she said, "I will do anything that is required," her voice made it clear that she was desperate. "I know that I can't take back anything I've done in the past, but I'm determined to put things right. Please let me show you that this is true." I took a big breath and thought about what she had just said. For the first time in a long time, I thought that what she was saying might be real. I said in a much calmer voice, "Abigail, I'm going to give you the chance. However, a lot of time is going to be needed. In order to accomplish this, a substantial amount of labor will be necessary. It is your responsibility to give proof that demonstrates that you are aware of the acts you have taken and that you do not intend to commit the same mistakes again in the future." "I swear on my life," she said in a shaky voice. "I promise I will, Father." I felt uneasy in my chest after we hung up the phone. I didn't believe we had a bright future ahead of us, but I knew we had a lot of problems to solve. I stared at the text for a long time, my fingers hovering over the keys. It was possible that we could find our way back to each other, but I wasn't going to forgive her anytime soon. Abigail's message was heartfelt and sincere, but there was a part of me that couldn't shake the feeling that it was too little, too late. I had given her so much, my time, my health, my money, everything I had to give. And for what? So she could leave all of that behind and pretend she had earned everything on her own? But while I was sitting there, I had a moment of clarity. What good would it do me to stay angry? What lesson would I be teaching her if I kept pushing her away? Is it really possible for me to stand by and watch my daughter lose everything to make a point? Or maybe I could find a way to let her know that love, respect, and responsibility are not things that should be looked at in one way. I picked up the phone and dialed her number. I waited for her to pick up. After 3 rings, she did. "Father?" Her voice sounded kind and unsure when she talked. "Are you really ready to talk? Are you sure about that?" I said, "I am of the opinion that the moment has arrived. Nonetheless, Abigail, there is something that I would like you to be cognizant of. This is not a simple conversation that we are having here. The purpose of this is to show you what the concept of actual consequences really involves. It must be common knowledge that there is a price to pay for everything that you have taken for granted. It is long past time for you to start paying that price." Finally, after a long silence, the person on the other end of the phone spoke again. I could hear Abigail sharply sucking in her breath. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but I thought it was important to be honest. I wasn't trying to be mean in any way. The goal was to teach her a lesson that would stick with her for the rest of her life. "I understand," she said in a voice that was barely heard above a whisper. "I really do. To be honest, I didn't know what I was doing. I was too busy trying to fit into a world where I thought I would fit in. But I was wrong, Father. I know that now. And I want to fix it." Her words were full of regret, but they didn't make up for the years of neglect that had built up. On the other hand, they were a step in the right direction. I said, "We'll see. It's easier to do something about a situation than it is to talk about what should be done about it. You will need to provide evidence of that." We agreed to meet at her house the next day, and she agreed to the plan. I knew I had to be honest, but I wasn't sure what would happen when we met. I was angry for a long time, but I finally decided it was time to let go of that anger. The next day, Abigail came to my apartment. Her eyes were red and raw from crying. She looked like she was more vulnerable and less confident than she had been before. Abigail was someone who was self-centered and confident, and I had grown to dislike that side of her. It wasn't who she really was. She was a young woman who had just found out that she had lost everything and everyone who mattered to her. When she walked in, I saw her as the daughter I had fought so hard to save for the first time in a long time. The memories I had of her were of the young girl I had raised, not the woman she had grown up to be. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my emotions in check. "I'm sorry, Father," she replied with a shaky voice. "I've been selfish. I didn't know how much agony I caused you. I didn't realize how much you had given up for me until it was almost too late." I sat down across from her and looked deep into her eyes. They were the eyes of someone who had seen too much pain. "Abigail, you hurt people with your words and your actions. For years, you have treated me like I was nothing. You thought that your money, your achievements, and your social status gave you the power to forget about where you grew up. You can forget about the person who gave you life twice, first when I gave you my kidney and then when I gave you everything I had." "I haven't forgotten," she said quickly while shaking her head. "I had no idea what to do, where to go, or how to get back. I thought I could have anything I wanted, but I was wrong. And I'm paying the price for it now." "Yes, you are," I answered, my voice firm. "But Abigail, I want you to understand something. There are other people participating in this than me. It has something to do with you. There is no such thing as a free lunch, and this is important for your development. You can't expect someone to keep giving you things just because you love them. You have to work for love. You have to gain respect. Now you have to win my trust back." She nodded, and I could see tears welling up in the corners of her eyes. "I know that I have a long way to go, but I will do whatever it takes to make things right. There is nothing I won't do to do this. I just want to be the daughter you raised." I believed what she was saying, even though it was hard to hear. I thought she was ready to change for the first time in years. "Okay," I said, lowering my voice. "But this isn't going to be easy. We have a lot to talk about. I can't just forgive you right away. But we can start over. I'm going to walk you through the process." As she said, "I am willing to do that," she gently wiped the tears from her eyes. "I will give you proof," she said next. "I am putting my word to you." And so we began our journey together. It didn't fix things right away. We didn't hug and then leave as if everything was fine. No, it took weeks, if not months. We met regularly and had painful conversations. Eventually, I began to see the daughter I had always known. The one who didn't need to prove her worth to anyone but herself. The one who was aware of and recognized all the work she had to do to get to where she is now. Abigail made real progress over the course of several months. She moved out of the fancy house I bought for her and into a small one-bedroom apartment. She took a job that was less glamorous and paid less, but it was one that valued her real skills over her social connections. It was a real life, even though it wasn't the one she had always wanted. It was a life she built all by herself. I got the feeling that we were really trying to fix our relationship for the first time. She would call me after work to tell me how her day had gone, ask for my advice about her job, or just check in on me. It was real, even though it wasn't perfect. She often called me for help and emotional support. One night, as we were sitting across from each other in my apartment, eating takeout and talking about our lives, Abigail said something that made me feel proud. "I've thought a lot about what you said, Dad," she remarked. "You were right about love that has no limits. It's not really love at all. For a long time, I was so focused on making other people happy and trying to fit into a world that wasn't made for me that I forgot what was really essential. But now I can see that. I know everything you've done for me. I'm thankful. I really appreciate this." I was happy and pleased to see her since the woman she was becoming was doing well. "I'm very happy for you, Abigail. Still, you should keep one thing in mind: the real problem here isn't where you live or how much money you have. It emphasizes the individuals who hold significance for you and those who exhibit concern for you. Everything else is just stuff." Her smile was real, and the warmth it gave off lit up her eyes. "I will do everything I can to make sure I never forget again, Father. That is something I have now learned." I was sitting in my new, small condo near the beach. From there, I could hear the waves breaking on the shore. This was 6 months after the last event. I had sold my house and used the money to buy this one. My life was more peaceful than I had ever thought it would be. My kidney function had stabilized at 25%. It's not great, but it's bearable with the right care. At that point, Abigail was also doing well. After a long search, she had finally found a job with a company that valued her skills more than her social connections. She was learning how to support herself financially and live within her means. We would meet for dinner every other Sunday. It wasn't anything fancy, just takeout and some casual conversation. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough to cover the basics. Abigail came into my condo tonight with a bag of Thai food. We sat down at the small table by the window and started to eat. While we were eating, she told me that she had gotten a big project at work, a sustainable clothing line that was getting a lot of good press. She smiled back at him and said, "I'm doing it, Dad. I'm not joking, it's happening right now. I'm building something real." I was so proud of her that I couldn't help but smile. "I knew you would," she said. We talked about a lot of different things during the evening, like our lives, our jobs, and what the future holds for us. I realized that I was feeling comfortable, which I hadn't felt in a long time. I had given Abigail my kidney, my money, and my heart. She was finally starting to understand how important it was to earn those things, even though it had taken her a long time to realize that. In my opinion, that was more than enough. This is the story of a father who gives up his life for his daughter and a daughter who goes through the painful process of growing up. Sometimes we have to hit rock bottom before we can fully understand the things we have taken for granted. We can't start fixing the damage that has been done until after this has happened. Abigail went back to her father, the one person who had always been there for her, because of the cruel truth that everything she thought was hers had been taken away from her. This story is not just about forgiveness or family, though. It is also about learning from our mistakes and becoming wiser. True success is not just about the things we own, it is also about the people we care about and the relationships we have with them. I hope this story has made you think about your own relationships and the people who have helped you along the way. It's important to take a step back and appreciate the sacrifices that others make for us on a regular basis. Once we do that, we can make our own decisions with love, respect, and gratitude in our hearts. If you've ever had to break up with someone you care about or had to deal with the difficult task of rebuilding trust, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. This post is for you if you can relate to this story. I would love to hear your story as well. If you liked this video, please click the like button. It really helps the channel and lets me know that you enjoyed the content. Also, if you want to see more stories like this one, be sure to subscribe and turn on bell notifications so you never miss an update. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Please remember that real love and respect come from trust and sacrifice. I'll see you in the next one.